Welcome to another edition of the BarDown Podcast. It's Luca, Pock, and Jesse here, and Olympics are a couple weeks away. It's an exciting time in the hockey world right now, and I think we've got a pretty awesome guest today that's going to help us tee up the men's Olympic hockey tournament specifically. He's a guy that played for Team Canada, a couple of goes around. He's got a couple medals.
A couple gold medals. Not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
And a Stanley Cup.
And a Stanley Cup. No big deal. No big deal. We're going to bring him in a couple minutes. But
and a World Juniors gold medal.
And a World Junior.
And a World Cup of Hockey title. Gold. They call it gold at the World Cup of Hockey?
I think they call it gold, technically. We're gassing him up a little bit here, eh?
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. We're going to get to him in a minute here, but how are you guys feeling just about this time of year, Olympic hockey coming up, and the excitement around that?
I'm ecstatic. It's been so long since I watched NHL players at the Olympics.
How old were you?
Oh, man. When was it? 2014? So I was 12.
Wow.
It's
wild.
It's been a long time.
That's
so
wild.
I'm excited for it. I'm excited to watch Canada. I think this is a unique time where we're going to get Crosby and David, and it's going to be great.
You were 8 when the golden goal happened?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I don't even remember much of the golden. I told this story on a quiz, so I don't want to tell it again on the podcast about where I was when the golden goal happened. But
we know where this guy was when the golden goal happened. Let's get to our guest. Ryan Getzlaf is joining the podcast. Cup winner, double gold medalist at the senior level with Team Canada at the Olympics. Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
You got it, guys. How we doing?
We're doing great. We're excited for Olympic hockey. It's been a long time coming for NHL players to be back in this position. But before we get to you kind of being a part of the process and some Olympic memories from you, what was your first kind of core Olympic memory of watching Team Canada growing up?
Yeah, honestly, the men's team was a little bit, probably Salt Lake was the first time I kind of remember watching the men's team. I watched a lot of World Juniors growing up. That was the pinnacle when we were kids. That felt a little closer to home. Lots of guys from the Pats, stuff like that were there, that we kind of recognized the names. So we did a lot of watching that over Christmas.
Ryan, you've worn the Maple Leaf at a bunch of different levels: World Juniors, World Championships, Under 18, World Cup of Hockey, and of course for Team Canada at the Olympics. Is there a different feeling when you put that Maple Leaf on and you know that you're an Olympian?
Yeah, always. I think that, anytime you put the Maple Leaf on, it just felt different. It felt great. We were playing for a bigger cause, and I was very, very fortunate to do it at a number of levels with a lot of great players. And anytime you go into those locker rooms and you look around at the names and sit and talk with the guys and experiences, it's an incredible moment. And Hockey Canada is, the pinnacle when it came to the class. And we just went, every time you were there, you got treated so well, and felt the whole country kind of behind you. And the Olympic experience was like no other. And especially winning at home, Vancouver was a pretty special moment.
What's up, Getz? Thanks for joining us. I'd feel remiss if I didn't say I'm a huge fan of yours. So thank you for coming on the pod, or this interview segment, or whatever you want to call it. Look, you have had the unique pleasure, and you earned it, of course, of winning a gold medal at the Olympics and a Stanley Cup. So I guess my question to you is, if you had to choose between the two, which one would you rather win?
Yeah, I would say that I don't want to diminish at all either one of them. Obviously, winning a gold medal is an absolutely incredible experience that not a lot of people get to do. But I didn't grow up dreaming of winning a gold medal. So that's the easiest way to put it. When you're a kid, every street hockey game we played, every game at the indoor, outdoor rinks, it didn't really matter. You were playing for the Stanley Cup. And I think so that was obviously the ultimate goal in life, in my hockey life, was to win a Stanley Cup. So I think that one probably felt the most special. You also have a little different feeling in the fact that, that group of guys, we went through the whole season together. Some of them I played with for multiple years. When you finally reach it, and how hard it is to go through those series, and the grind and the blood and the sweat and everything else that you went through. That's a pretty big moment in a player's life.
Before we get to your Olympic career, let's go back even further. Let's go back to the 2005 World Juniors team. It's one of the best teams of all time. I think many hold it in that regard. But the year before that, before you guys won gold, one of the most heartbreaking losses ever. Was that the most heartbreaking loss of your career?
No, I mean, that one still, I to this day, I tell everybody that was the biggest lesson I learned in hockey was losing that. And people say that a lot. I know that you win more, or you learn more from losing than you do winning. And that experience was one that I never forgot throughout my whole career. And the fact that we went all the way over there, we went through everything, and it just shows that not every moment can be taken for granted. You have to play everything right through the end, and the guys on the other side are trying to do the same thing as you. So I learned to hate to lose at that point, not just love to win.
Let's focus on the upcoming Olympics this year, 2026. Everyone's so excited to get the NHL players back, first time in 12 years. All of our listeners remember you in 2010 and 2014 as being a huge part of those gold medal winning teams, but a lot of them might not know you're still involved with Hockey Canada, working as a player relations advisor. Would love to know about that role, what it entails, if you were involved in the selection process, and kind of what it's been like working with this group.
Yeah, it's been great. Been a kind of a moving target as far as a role. I think that Scott Salmon and Doug Armstrong approached me about a year and a half to 2 years ago now. We've been going for building towards this team and to be part of his staff. And first off, tremendous honor. It was incredible to be even asked to be part of this group. When you look around the GMs and who's on this team, what an experience I was about to have. So that was kind of first and foremost. They wanted me to be interactive with the players, help guys a little bit here and there where I could. I think given the fact that almost none of the players going into that Four Nations had played best on best tournament, other than I think we had 3. And so it was a way to have somebody around that had sat in their seat, gone through it at different levels. As it progressed, I think it's turned into a little bit more of a consultant role for the GMs to use as a tool. I attend all of their meetings, all their phone calls, which in my part has been tremendous learning experience for me, being able to go through this whole process with them and the amount of work that they put into it, the amount of detail that goes into every meeting, and just be kind of a sounding board for them to, talk about, what I experienced in a locker room, what I think we need in a locker room. Is this as important as that? Those kind of things. And then we just go back on experience on, sitting in the locker room in Vancouver, say going into overtime. What's the most important thing in that room? Those kind of things. So I was able to share those experiences that I sat firsthand in, as well as the knowledge I've gained over the years of being in the NHL.
Continuing on the topic of the Olympics, can you tell us what it's like to live in the Olympic Village? Do you have a roommate? Do you bring your family? Do you have any funny stories that are PG that you could tell us?
I wish I had a better memory, but specific stories, I can't really recall anything crazy. But the village is I'll say this: Vancouver and Russia were 2 totally different experiences. Vancouver was very business oriented, NHL style. We ate at restaurants for the most part. I stayed at the hotel with my wife after games, those kind of things. But the village was incredible. That when you go sit in the cafeteria in there for breakfast and coffee, and you see the athletes that are walking around, you get to interact a little bit with people that are from a totally different walk of life, but have the same goal, which is a very cool experience. And people always encouraged me, and I encourage people now to interact as much as you can, because you can learn a lot from other athletes and what they go through and their grind. And then, Russia was one of those ones where not a lot of family came. It was a weird time in the world. And we spent almost every day in the village, and we were interacting and eating in the village for the most part. And we kind of had our own little space for Team Canada, which was very cool. Got to sit in there and share a couple Molson Canadians, and and tell stories. So it was fun.
You mentioned being able to interact with other athletes. I know you played a bunch of sports growing up. Is there a sport or an athlete that maybe you gained more of an appreciation for, seeing them up close, seeing their regimen, watching them in their craft, in that environment?
Well, I think I got an appreciation for everybody's commitment to commitment to their craft. I'll call it. You know, to see these people that they work 4 years to get where they are for a 2.5 minute skate, or one little slip up, and the amount of their focus that goes into what they're doing was incredible to watch. Understanding that they're building what it meant to them. For us as NHL players, it's a little bit different. We go over there in the middle of our season. We're also playing, whatever, could be 6-7 games. If we lose one, doesn't necessarily mean we're done. So it's a little bit different feeling. You're kind of playing the whole time. There's people there that they build 2 or 3 days and they do their one thing and then it's over. And so you get an appreciation for the amount of focus they put in. They built towards that for 4 years, and some are disappointed, some are excited, and ultimately the experience is what it is.
All right, speaking of focus, I want to ask you about Sidney Crosby. You played with him in 2010 and 2014. He was a lot younger then, and it's crazy to see how he's really evolved. He's this larger-than-life figure in Canada now, as such a legend in the hockey world. But he's still playing, and it feels like he's still the first name on the roster despite his age now. How have you seen him really evolve as both a player and a person over the years?
Yeah, it's I don't know if he's evolved into larger than life. I think he's been a larger than life since he was 14. But he, I've been fortunate. I played with Sid since the World Juniors. He played on both our teams and every level. I think that Four Nations was the first one that we didn't play together. So it was a lot of fun. Sid's been nothing but a professional since he was 14 years old. He's grown with the game. He's given everything to the game and the players around him. So much respect for a guy that's gone through it the way he has, knowing the spotlight, the scrutiny, whether it be the positives or the negatives that happen. Lucky for him, he's a heck of a hockey player, and almost everywhere he goes is a championship. So there hasn't been as many negatives, I'm sure, in his whole career. But another guy, he also went through different injuries and concussions and stuff where he had to work to come back, and it's the amount of respect around the league for a guy like that is, it's second to none.
Ryan, just got to point out, I see that Packers helmet in the corner of your screen there, and I'm very sorry about the lost pal, although not really, because I'm a Vikings fan. I just want to ask about the reserve list. How exactly does this process work? You guys select your players, and then if a player's injured, you just have this big list of players to choose from, or what would the process be like exactly?
So I think, what happens, we had our long list of players, and Scott Salmon and Doug Armstrong, again, have a tremendous amount of respect for everyone that was on our list to begin with. We had a bunch of guys that came to Calgary in the summer, and everyone was fully understanding that there's only so many spots. And so they contact everyone. The GMs contact the team, anyone who didn't make the team, but we wanted to keep an eye on, has to commit to staying on the testing protocol. So they have to have a phone call, some out of respect, some out of necessity, but we need to call everybody and make sure that they understand that we appreciate what they did, the commitment they had to us for the last year and a half, and that there is still a possibility. There's a lot of hockey between now and then, and injuries do happen, unfortunately, but if that time does come, every guy was more than willing to stay on that list and be prepared to come to Milan if their name gets called.
All right, one guy we know that's going to be there is Macklin Celebrini. A ton of eyes are going to be on him. Obviously, all the talk going into the process was, would him, Bedard, Schaefer all make the team? Which one of these teenage phenoms was going to be on it? And Celebrini is the guy. He's going to be there. Is there any advice that you have for him, looking back at your experience when you made the men's senior team? You were pretty young into your career. Is there anything that you've said to him or any advice you'd offer him knowing the pressure that kind of comes with the position that he's being put in.
Yeah, I think honestly the biggest thing that will probably go over with Macklin is just you have to try really hard not to be bright-eyed, which is it's not an easy task when you go into a locker room like that, and you sit down in your seat and you look around the room and question, whether you belong or you're just excited because of the names in the room. It's more when you get into that locker room, you're just one of 25. You're not. There's nobody else that's more special than you. You made that team, and you got to do what you do. And that's always been the kind of motto from Hockey Canada as I grew up. Is when you come to that room, you got to play, and there's no passengers when you go into these tournaments. So I have full faith in Macklin. He is a great kid. We experienced it with him at the Worlds. He met some of these guys. Sid and McKinnon were over there. So those are big name guys that kind of helped him along, I think, over there. And I think that'll bode well for him going into this tournament.
Luca asked you about the youngest guy on the team in Macklin Celebrini. I'm going to ask you about one of the oldest guys in Drew Doughty. You played with him in the Olympics. You played against him a ton back in the LA-Anaheim rivalry days. Recently, a story came out about Doughty with the 2010 Olympics that he actually almost missed the bus, or he was almost late to the gold medal game, which is crazy. I'm wondering if you're sitting on any gems related to Drew Doughty, because the guy just seems like such a character.
He is a character, that's for sure. One of the reasons that he's such a good player and such a good teammate is he's always up to something, and he's always willing to share it with the group. So he has a lot of fun when he plays the game, and he loosens up a locker room really quick. Funny story, we almost left him in Russia. He after the gold medal game, we had a bus at 4 a.m. or something, and we're all sitting on the bus, and Drew Doughty is nowhere to be found, and jumps on the bus at the end after we found him without his passport, without his ID, without anything, and thought he was just going to get out of Russia. But we figured it out and brought him home.
Are you able to tell us how you figured that out? That sounds like a pretty complex situation.
It is complicated how we figured it out, but we got him.
Speaking of Doughty and legendary stories, go Bombers, by the way.
Hey.
Dude, you didn't even acknowledge the fact
I know you
that
see that
you
other
didn't congratulate him on the Rough Riders Grey Cup championship. What is this over here?
Didn't feel the need to.
Yeah.
Well, that one was on home turf too, so it made it all the rougher. No pun intended. But I just want to ask about Sidney Crosby now. Do you have any specific stories that you remember about Sid being at the Olympics with him?
Well, honestly, I can't think of anything that off the top of my head. Sid's, like I said, he grew up kind of a goofball too. And when he gets around the guys and he loosens up and he feels comfortable, he's a lot of fun to be around, and we had a lot of good laughs.
Okay, we talked about the process of selecting these teams, and I feel like there's always a narrative with how hard it is to pick the best players. I think it's a sentiment that when we see the team drop, it's like, why did they overthink this, and why didn't they just take the best players available? From your perspective, playing on these teams and now being part of the process, and I feel like 2014 is a great example of this, where you were so deep, especially down the middle of the ice, and it was like a historically great defensive team. Can you maybe speak to the challenges that people might not fully appreciate when it comes to picking these teams, and why it's not just we're picking the best players, and how roles and locker room aspects and elements of it may kind of dictate the process a little more so than fans want to fully appreciate?
Yeah, I think as a viewing audience, I don't want to say, I would never say that an audience is ignorant. I'm the same way. I was when I was a player. I walked into those rooms and I was like, I could have picked this team, like every fan out there. And that's and you're not wrong in some aspects. We have a lot of talent in Canada, a lot of great players. But I will say that my eyes were opened tremendously on how much work these GMs go through. Our staff, the amount of scouting, the amount of detail that they go into, the amount of debates we had sitting in those rooms was endless. Right up until the last hour, it was we were still debating things and still, making sure that everything is crossed, and led by Doug, who has been in this situation for a long time and was tremendously appreciative and collaborative with his whole staff, and going through each player and understanding what we thought their role was going to be. And then Doug's got to go to Coop and make sure that kind of lines up. And so it was a cool process. There was a lot, and there's still 5, 6, 7, 8 other guys that could have been probably on this team with the amount of talent we had. So it's a luxury and a curse when you're talking about picking these teams. So, and no matter what you do, you're right if you win and you're wrong if you lose. So that's kind of the nature of the beast. And we're excited about the opportunity that we have in front of us, the amount of guys that we do have on this roster that we think are difference makers.
I think we've all said it here. Like, you can probably make 3 Canada teams, and there's a good chance that all 3 of them medal. So it's such a tough task to put a roster like this together. So it's really interesting to hear. I wanted to ask you about Scott Niedermayer. He was the captain in 2010. He was your teammate in Anaheim. I think a lot of people have talked about his poise and his leadership and how valuable that was, especially in the gold medal game when, the States tied it late and you're going into overtime, and just about how calm he was. How important is it to have a presence like that on a team with so much star power?
Yeah, I think there's 2 moments. I was very lucky. I played with Scott my first year in the league. He was in Anaheim. So we were together for that whole season and then into that Olympic year. And the thing about Scotty was that Scotty's entire demeanor, whether you were up by 10 or down by 10 or in the gold medal game or in the Stanley Cup final, his demeanor never changes. He's very calm, cool, collected. And that radiates throughout your room. When you look over and there's a guy next to you that has won Stanley Cups, has won gold medals, has lost gold medals. I think that you get a certain kind of calmness that goes through your body. And it's not necessarily what he says or what it's more about just kind of what he does. And when he goes about his business, comes in the locker room, goes through his same routine in between the third period and overtime. And I think he spoke a little bit in between just to kind of calm the group a little bit, I think, after the late goal. And then we just go out and obviously we executed in the end, which is what we wanted.
I know we've been asking you a lot of questions about different stories with players, but I feel the need to ask you, Corey Perry, one of your best buddies throughout your career, are there any specific stories you could tell us about him?
If only my memory was better, but me and Perry were together so much. We went through almost everything together, especially as young players. I think we played together for 12 or 14 years, basically on the same line every day. So we went through so many different things. Pears is the quietest guy ever that just comes alive when he gets comfortable and makes everybody else laugh around him. There was a lot of, I remember when he went through his little glove antics where he started squirting water in people's gloves and stealing gloves from the other bench on the way by, all that kind of stuff, just to irritate people and irritate me more. I got more fights in my career because of him than I did in myself. So it was, but he's the best. He's my favorite guy, one of my best friends, and just love being around him.
All right, a couple more questions before we let you go. We had James Doughty on the podcast a couple months back. It was for his new book, Beauties 2, and he told us a story about Puck. It was someone that got traded to Anaheim.
Yeah. May and Peros, I think?
Something like that. It was a newcomer to Anaheim, and they lost a bet, and something about they had to touch Randy Carlyle, and Randy didn't like being touched. Is there any validity to this or stories that you remember that are similar to this one?
Yeah, well, Randy, those of you know Randy, and when we were young, Randy can be a bit of a grouch at times, and was a little bit of a hard-nosed coach, but had a big heart in the end. And but it was we used to play 2-puck at the end of practice all the time, and we'd play it for various different things. We played for Spray Tan Boy. Whoever lost had to get the worst spray tan. And one day, I think Peros probably brought it up, but he said we're going to play Hug Randy Boy. And so whoever lost the 2-puck game had to hug Randy in front of the whole team. And Chris Kunitz, I think, ended up losing and had to, on the airplane, after everybody got on, we were all watching up as he came on, and Randy was in the first seat. And Kunitz leaned over and gave him a big hug, and the whole plane just erupted.
Ryan, I got to ask you about one more thing that is still ingrained in a lot of hockey fans' memories, and that was the whole thing that happened between Trevor Zegras and Jamie Drysdale. They were doing like some sort of handshake or whatever, and you were kind of just there, looked a little done with it. Were you confused by what was going on, or were you just like kind of fed up, or what was going on in your head there?
Yeah, I don't think it was a confusion at that point as much as an irritation at that point. No, I think at that, obviously it blew up into this is when I was going to retire moment. It was going through my last year. I love Trevor and Jamie. They were both young kids. It was just an example of how the league had kind of changed a little bit, and the fact that these guys, we weren't very good. Our team, first off, we were probably going through a rough patch at that time. I don't think I was the most enjoyable person to be around either, but they're out there hitting each other and tapping each other on the cup on the way out, and and the look, just I got sick of watching it, I think, was the thing, and I rolled my eyes, and obviously they caught that and turned it into this whole thing. But no, yeah, we've talked and joked about it all the time.
Is that when you kind of knew that it was time to hang up the skates?
I think I'd already made my mind up at that point, but yes, that's part of the culture change and part of the thing where these guys are a little bit different than we were as old school players.
That's it. That's all we got for you, Ryan. We're really appreciative of your time. Are you going to Milan? Are you watching there? Are you staying home?
No, yeah, me and the family will be there. I'll be in the locker room and being with the guys. Similar role to what I played at the Four Nations, and being around and helping them with anything I can there.
Well, wishing you all the best while you're there. Enjoy it. And obviously we'll be cheering for a Team Canada win and a gold medal ceremony to follow. So wishing you all the best, and thank you so much for joining us and taking the time.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Wow, what a beauty.
Yeah, honestly, like it was, first of all, that Doughty story was like epic, like so funny. And, you know, it was kind of nice hearing about what was going on in his head during that Drysdale and Zegras thing. Because, like, I think everyone was wondering, like, was he actually rattled about that? And he kind of confirmed, yeah, he was pretty
I love how honest that he was. He's like, we weren't very good. Like, that would never fly. Like, a veteran would never be doing that. But, you know what? They were, like, 19, 20 years old that season?
His last year, too, he's just like, get me out of here.
Yeah. Hey, sometimes you get signs from the hockey gods where, like, you know it's time to hang up your skates. Whether that's at the NHL level or any level, but...
What's the other levels? Like the beer league level? Is that what you're talking
like
about?
when you like play like kind of high level hockey when you're younger, then you're like, I'm not going anywhere further with this. You didn't have one of those?
No. I think
I didn't rip AAA in Winnipeg like you did. You know?
I think I knew at 10 years old I wasn't going anywhere. Yeah. That was when it was done.
Okay, for the record, I never thought I was going anywhere, but you kind of just know like it's time to play high school hockey.
Yeah, I see.
A lot of great stories from Getz. We're really appreciative of his time, and like we said, wishing him all the best. And as three Canadians, we're obviously cheering for Team Canada, but it's going to be an amazing tournament on the men's side, on the women's side, para side. We're just excited to watch all of these different hockey competitions with the best teams, players in the world. And we've got some other interviews coming up as well. Let us know if there are any guests that you want us to try and get on the podcast and hear from. And yeah, that's all we got for you today.